So this is a 2022 Gibson Les Paul traditional, and Gibson calls this color ebony burst, and they can call it whatever color they want because they do that, but this is more purple than it is black. The only black ebony part of this is the perimeter outside. So they can call this whatever they'd like, but this is really more of a purple burst than it is anything else. And it does have a really nice top to it, and it is a nice comfortable weight. It is not super heavy. I will put it on the scale to find out for everybody what exactly it does weigh. But this guitar has an interesting set of features. It is the traditional Pro 5. So therefore, it has a set of dip switches. And I believe there's a total of 5 of them when we get this guitar taken apart or get the cover off the back to be able to do it. It does have locking Grover tuners, and it has a lot of really nice appointments to it. I mean, the guitar itself is actually quite comfortable to play. It does have something that I'm not used to seeing on a Gibson, and that is it has an asymmetrical neck. So it changes it changes from cowboy chord area to solo area and gets flatter. So this is a little more rounded than this. And I think it's 12 to 16. It's something akin to that, 12 and a half to 16, somewhere in that area. But these guitars are actually, I was surprised. At owning a 2011 traditional, I am confused by exactly what, other than this top, is traditional about this guitar, because there is virtually nothing that I think of that's traditional about this instrument. I think it is absolutely way ahead of its time, whether it's, like I say, the asymmetrical taper neck, or if it is the locking tuners, the pickups that can be, it does have the push-pull pots, so it can do all the phase reversal and stuff like that. So it has all the abilities of a modern guitar with all the old school specs. I mean, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's the traditional appointments versus the moderns, access cutaway and ebony fretboard and so many other little things that are new on the moderns, which, like I say, I'm not gonna lie, I do like the modern, especially the one we have, and that's that sparkling burgundy burst, or sparkling burgundy top. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the cover off the back, and we're gonna go through all the different settings, because you can swap on this guitar between coil tap and coil split. So I'm anxious to hear what the difference is, and I'm kind of interested in if it changes the outputs with a voltmeter. I mean, what does the reading happen when you split the coils, and does it? And I'm not going to be surprised if we can't, because of all the modern electronics, get a good reading on the pickups, because I'm super duper interested in the way it's going to work. But at the same point in time, I recognize that sometimes with these modern control setups, you don't get the ability to see the readings. It just does it. It's inside the circuit board. So again, 2022 Les Paul traditional Pro 5, and let's get this baby up onto something where we can take a look and see what's inside the control cavity. So HP4 high performance circuit is what they're calling this circuit board that's going to be inside here. So it has, as you can tell, push-pull functions and dip switch functions. So the question really is, which way is tap and which way is split, and will we be able to tell the difference with outputs? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this cover off, and then we'll come back to the project. All right, so in the control cavity, we have CTS pots, and there's 4 of them. And then we have the dip switches that are down here. Now, with that in mind, these are the same CTS pots that we've seen. I believe it was on the Modern that had that. And I also think that the CTS pots that were on the Epiphone Lucille had a similar appearance to these. I will say something else. I want to point some other little nicky-nacky things out. Right underneath here, when I was taking this apart, I noticed that on the back right here, there was some rough area that was left over from where the buffing compound got left. And there's another one right here. And I'm not sure if that's a QC error or if that's just something that happened and nobody paid attention to. Like I said, I don't know if that's something that was a problem or if it's just an anomaly. But you can see the buffing compound here too. So there's a lot of buffing compound that was left on this guitar when this guitar was made. And that's something, this one apparently set at a Guitar Center, because I believe this is a Guitar Center exclusive model. Now, I could be wrong on that. Somebody correct me if I am. But I think that's what we're going to discover is that this one was / is a Guitar Center exclusive model. Maybe Musician's Friend, or isn't there some other company that does that's partnered with Guitar Center? I'm not up on the name brands of the places I usually try to buy from individuals or from Gibson themselves. So when it comes to guitars like this, but anyway, so the dip switches as they stand, 1 and 2 are up, and then 3, 4, and 5 are down. So with that in mind, 1 and 2 is let's see, 1 neck pickup tapper split, 2 neck pickup tapper split. So I'll be interested to see what kind of readings we get on this with this setup on there right now with the dip 1 and dip 2 up. Now the neck volume is number 3, and that is going to give us, so neck volume, high pass filter out or in circuit. So I'm going to say that the neck volume, when dip number 3 is up, is probably a high pass filter. And that is probably the same because bridge volume is also supposed to be a high pass filter. And then transient suppression is dip switch number 5, and that is, I'm going to presume, out or in circuit. So with that in mind, I'm going to say that this one right here is going to give us the ability to turn transient suppression on. And I'm not sure what transient suppression actually is. So we will see if that makes a difference. I'm going to presume that it is out right now and it is in when it is up. And the same with the filter. Out is down and up is in circuit. So we'll see if that turns anything off when it's doing it. But for right now, let's get some measurements on the pickups. So now, neck pickup gets a 7.2, bridge pickup gets a 7.96, and in the middle we get a 3.78. Now when you split those, as it is apparently the deal. You drop it down to 1.85 in the middle, 3.53 in the neck, and 3.9 in the bridge. So I'm going to presume, based on that, that looks like a coil split. So now we're going to flip the dip switches and see if it changes the readings. Indeed, it did. Now this is in the neck, or this is actually the bridge with the tap turned up, 7.97 and 7.21 with the switch engaged, and in the middle 3.78. When you turn the switches off, you basically 7.21, 7.97. So it looks like it just takes your ability to take away the coil split. So there's something about a coil tap. So I'm going to presume that split is with the dip switches up and tap is with them down. It'll be interesting to see what that sounds like when it is playing through an amplifier, because I am habitually curious as to what that deal is. One more time, let's swap it back to the dip switches and check those readings out one more time. So indeed, you do gain the ability to do a split when you do the actual dip switch up. So from the factory, it is set to being in the actual coil split. So that's a pretty solid setup. I wonder what happens when we put it in the middle. This is in phase, and that was out of phase. This is out of phase. So it changes it for just a split second worth of impedance, but overall, they're basically the same. So there's just a jump while the pop makes transition. You do that. Now, if you do let's just see what this does with okay, so this one has something to do with the transient, I guess, because when you do the actual bridge tone, it does not change the actual reading at all. So there you go. So that must be that transient suppression we were talking about. All right, so now to the playing. While I had setting this up, I took a moment to put the cover back on and then take it back off. And as predicted, there is absolutely no difference. Now, I will say this about this cover. This cover has the same information on both sides. So there is no real difference to this cover. You have to kind of know which way is up and which way is down. There's no extra filtering or shielding or anything like that on this cover. So I am playing with this cover off. Like I say, the easiest way to tell the difference is you can see the beveled edges and relief for the actual screws that go in there now. So you can tell if you look at that, but other than that, there's all the same information's on both sides of this cover, and there is no shielding on it. So it does not make a difference if it is on or off the guitar. And when I played it just now with the guitar case, with it back on, absolutely no difference at all. And I'll display that again once we get to the end of the video. But right now, this guitar is with dip switch 1 and 2 up, which is coil split. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just play a few riffs, just play a few notes on each of the pickups, and I don't have any effects that have been added. I took the vibrato and reverb off of the Fender 68 twin reissue. So without further ado, let's get into some sound demos. So this is with the guitar in full humbucker for the neck and bridge. Split that. Onto the bridge. Split that. Noticeable difference in volume, especially on the bridge pickup when you go back to full humbucker versus split. So again, this will be the neck in split. Neck in full humbucker. So, that said, let's find out what it sounds like with the dip switches changed. So, we are now dip switches changed. Start off on the neck. And this should be a coil tap versus a coil split. Didn't lose nearly as much volume, so that's definitely the coil tap versus the coil split. So let's do the same thing with the neck now, or the bridge, pardon me. That was the neck. Let's do the same thing with the bridge. Tap it. Like I say, not nearly the loss, but that also speaks to why it on the voltmeter showed that it lost no impedance at the tap versus the split. There was no noticeable difference. It's almost as if this has changed, but you can definitely hear the difference because in the middle of it, there is definitely some difference. So that is the difference between coil tap and coil split. And I did not really completely understand that until just now. You can go Google coil splitting and coil tapping and you'll be able to see what it is. So basically, coil splitting is you take away half of the coils, and that's what happened here. Now, the big question I have is when they talk about the let's see, where is the one? Oh, high pass filter, in circuit or out circuit. Oh, inner coils, outer coils. So with outer coils down, oh, I see. When you're split, let's try this, because this might be an interesting little setup. So the bridge tone is inner coils or outer coils. So up is outer coils. So right now we are in, if we are, hold on, let me change the settings on the actual dip switches. All right, so we are back in the setup where we have gone back to the coil split option. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take both of the coils and split them. So you get this sound right now. And that is supposed to be with the, this should be with the inner coils set up right now. And that should be with the outer coils. Little bit of difference. Now let's see what that does when the coil taps are turned on. So now we are in coil tap mode. That should be the inner coils, and this should be the outer coils. So that really does make a difference. And it's kind of interesting how that works because, again, as we noted on here, that is inner coil versus outer coil, supposedly. So interesting. That's kind of different. That it does make a difference whether it's in coil split or coil tap. I guess when you, this will automatically give you, inner and outer coils. That's kind of crazy. Now let's see what happens when we go. I'm going to go back to coil split mode so that we are able to see all right. So right now, neck volume should not have a high pass filter. But when the dip switch is up for number 3, neck and bridge, or actually 3 and 4, neck and bridge volume should have a high pass filter. So let's just jump in on that. So as of right now, when you turn the volume down, let's do it on the neck first. There's a noticeable difference on that. There is a noticeable lack of treble. Watch, I'm going to turn these back off and you'll be able to hear it. You'll gain treble. if you have a lot of feedback, that might seriously be a big deal, because especially on that bridge pickup, you could cut that tone out pretty easily. So I'm intrigued by that one. I might almost be willing to turn that number 4 on and leave it on, just to be able to cut some of the bite out of. And you know, that's really the difference. That's almost a changing the difference between a 498 and a 490. So that was a pretty substantial little difference there. Like right now, look at it. The neck is already kind of chimey and doesn't really have a whole lot of bite, but it does. That made a pretty decent difference. I think I'm gonna leave it like that. Now, transient suppression. So let's see what happens when we are in the middle position. We do have the high pass filter turned on for the bridge, but let's see what transient suppression does. So this is with transient suppression off. And this if I can get it to turn, is transient suppression on, we think. Maybe not. Now, I don't know that that made that big a difference. I suppose on some level it's supposed to, but oh, it does take a little bit of the treble off. So it does take a little bite off of it. I didn't recognize it at first, but it does make a difference. So, well, there you go. At the end of the day, this guitar has a lot of different tones that it can give you, and it does a lot. I'm still confused about how, on any level, this is a traditional, other than it just doesn't have the modern cutaways and stuff like that that the modern does. So I think these guitars are much unloved. I think that the gloss versions, because there's a satin version of these guitars too, they don't have nearly, I don't think, as vibrant a tops, but the tops are more active on the gloss versions, which I think is like, there's like a blue burst, ebony burst, and then maybe an iced tea, something like that. But those guitars, like I say, these guitars, I see a lot of people not liking these guitars, and I can see why. If you are a purist, this guitar does not appeal to you, and I can't understand why people don't like them, because I think they're great. And for a functioning musician, especially in a studio or a live setting, this gives you a lot of flexibility to figure out exactly what the guitar is and where it fits in with the music. I mean, you can change where it fits in by turning the high pass filter on, turn the transient suppression on, turn the transient suppression. If you're looking for something that'll just really give you some serious feedback, that's a solid plan. You know, this is a solid option. This guitar, though, like I say, I think it's cool. I think it's probably worth the money. It's got a lot of options. It can do a lot of things. It's incredibly comfortable to play, and this neck is just really, really, really comfortable. Um, so I'm impressed, but I'm also a little confused because, again, there's not much traditional about this guitar, especially compared to the 2011 traditional that I have. So maybe it's something that I just don't understand, which is likely because I'm old. And because we talked about it, 9 pounds and 0.2 ounces. So this guitar is, for all practical purposes, a 9-pound guitar. So it is every bit what you think of as a traditional weight for this guitar, though it probably does have some kind of weight relief to it because it is a modern guitar. So again, 2022 Gibson Les Paul Traditional Pro 5, and I think it's worth it. I'll do another comparison to it and the traditional, the 2011 traditional, to give you an idea of the tops, the way they look, and to see what 11 years of traditional made a difference to on these guitars. And like I say, we'll get some sound samplings and a little more of the actual distortion and stuff like that when we do that. Till next time.